The segment opens like any other polished morning show interview, with warm lighting, upbeat background music and friendly smiles exchanged between Kelly Clarkson and Craig Melvin. Kelly appears relaxed at first, laughing lightly and engaging with the audience as she settles into her seat. The conversation begins on safe ground, touching on her latest projects, her influence in music and television, and her reputation as a down-to-earth superstar. The studio audience applauds, and everything feels routine, almost scripted in its smoothness. Viewers watching at home would have no reason to expect anything unusual. As the discussion moves forward, the tone subtly shifts. Craig transitions into a more personal line of questioning, bringing up the pressures of public expectations and recent criticisms that have followed Kelly in the media. His wording, though professional, feels sharper than before. Kelly's expression changes almost imperceptibly. Her smile tightens, and she takes a brief pause before responding. She answers carefully, choosing her words with control, but her body language tells a different story. She leans back slightly, folds her hands, and avoids eye contact for a moment, signaling discomfort. The studio atmosphere begins to feel heavier. The music no longer plays between questions, and the cameras linger a beat longer on Kelly's face. Craig continues, attempting to clarify his point, but the follow-up question feels like pressure rather than curiosity. Kelly lets out a small breath and tries to redirect the conversation, emphasizing positivity and growth. Still, the tension is noticeable. The audience grows quieter, sensing the shift from light entertainment to something more serious. Behind the smiles and professional etiquette, an emotional undercurrent builds. Kelly's voice remains steady, but there is a subtle strain in her tone, as if she is holding back frustration. She nods politely, yet her eyes reveal unease. The co-hosts glance at one another, clearly aware that the exchange is moving into uncomfortable territory. What was meant to be a candid discussion now feels like a balancing act between honesty and respect. By the end of the segment's first moments, viewers can feel that something is off. The friendly interview has transformed into a tense conversation, setting the stage for a confrontation that seems increasingly unavoidable. The calm before the storm has settled, and both the audience and Kelly herself sense that the situation is on the verge of escalating. The tension that had been quietly building now spills into the open as the conversation continues. Craig Melvin presses forward, attempting to frame his question as fair and necessary. But the tone lands differently on Kelly. She shifts in her chair, her posture stiffening, and for the first time her composure visibly cracks. Her response comes quicker now, less measured, as she pushes back against what she feels is an unfair assumption. The warmth that defined the opening minutes of the interview is gone, replaced by a charged silence that fills the studio between every exchange. Craig tries to regain control of the discussion, interjecting with a follow-up that sounds explanatory but only fuels the tension. Kelly cuts in mid-sentence, her voice firm and unmistakably emotional. She explains that there is a line between honest conversation and personal disrespect, and that line has just been crossed. Her words are not shouted, but the intensity behind them is impossible to ignore. The audience sits frozen, unsure whether to react, while the cameras capture every subtle expression on her face. As the exchange grows sharper, Kelly's frustration becomes more apparent. She gestures with her hands, emphasizing her points, her voice trembling slightly as years of pressure and public scrutiny seem to surface all at once. Craig responds defensively, insisting that his role is to ask difficult questions, but his explanation does little to ease the moment. Instead, it reinforces the sense of confrontation, turning the interview into a live debate rather than a conversation. The studio atmosphere turns visibly uncomfortable. CO hosts shift in their seats, and producers off-camera likely signal for a wrap, but the moment has already taken on a life of its own. Kelly pauses, takes a breath, and then delivers a calm but powerful statement about boundaries, respect, and the emotional cost of constantly being put on the spot. Her words carry weight, not just as a celebrity, but as someone asserting control in real time. By the end of the exchange, it is clear that the situation has escalated beyond repair. The professionalism remains on the surface, but underneath it, emotions are raw and exposed. Viewers can sense that this confrontation has reached a breaking point, and that the next move Kelly makes will change the direction of the interview entirely. The tension finally breaks as the conversation reaches a point where restraint can no longer hold it together. Craig follows up with a question that feels less like clarification and more like a challenge, pressing Kelly on responsibility, public image, and how she handles criticism. The shift is immediate. Kelly straightens in her chair, her expression firming as she interrupts gently at first, signaling that she needs to respond on her own terms. Her voice remains calm, but there is a noticeable edge, the kind that comes from feeling cornered rather than heard. As she speaks, Kelly explains that there is a difference between accountability and being judged in a public space that rarely shows the full picture. She emphasizes boundaries, reminding everyone that while she shares much of her life with fans, she is still entitled to respect. Craig attempts to interject, clarifying that the question was not meant as an attack, but the interruption only fuels the moment. Kelly raises her hand slightly, not aggressively but decisively, asking to finish her point. The studio falls completely silent. Her words grow more powerful and personal. She speaks about years in the industry, the pressure to constantly explain herself, and how exhausting it is to be expected to absorb criticism gracefully while remaining endlessly agreeable. The emotional weight becomes visible. Her eyes glisten and her breathing slows as she works to stay composed. This is no longer an interview. It is a raw expression of frustration that has been building for a long time. Craig responds defensively, reiterating that tough questions are part of the job. His tone is still professional, but the exchange now feels like a standoff. Kelly shakes her head slightly, pushing back against the idea that professionalism should come at the cost of dignity. She states clearly that she will not continue a conversation that feels dismissive or unfair, especially on live television. The audience reacts with murmurs and stunned silence. The CO hosts shift uncomfortably, unsure whether to step in or let the moment unfold. The energy in the studio is intense, almost electric. Viewers at home sense that this is a defining moment, one where Kelly is choosing self-respect over smooth television. The confrontation reaches its peak, leaving no doubt that the situation has crossed a line and that what comes next will change the direction of the show entirely. The moment hangs in the air for a split second after Kelly finishes speaking, as if everyone is waiting for someone else to take control. Instead, Kelly makes the decision herself. She reaches up and calmly removes her microphone, placing it gently on the table. The gesture is quiet but powerful. There is no shouting, no dramatic movement, just a clear signal that she is done. The cameras catch Craig's surprised expression as he begins to speak, but Kelly stands before he can finish. She looks around the studio briefly, acknowledging the audience with a composed nod. Her face shows a mix of resolve and exhaustion, the expression of someone who has finally chosen peace over endurance. Without another word, she turns and walks off the set. The studio remains silent for a heartbeat, then fills with nervous applause and whispered reactions. The camera quickly cuts back to the hosts, who struggle to regain composure as the reality of what just happened sinks in. Craig attempts to address the situation, offering a brief, carefully worded comment about respecting guests and moving forward. The tension is unmistakable. Within moments, the show cuts to a commercial break earlier than planned, confirming that the walk-off was not scripted or expected. Viewers at home flood social media, clips spreading rapidly across platforms with captions ranging from shock to admiration. As the broadcast resumes, the atmosphere is noticeably different. The hosts appear more restrained, avoiding direct reference to the incident. Behind the scenes, producers scramble to manage the fallout. Rumors begin circulating almost immediately, with insiders suggesting that the exchange touched on long-standing sensitivities and unresolved frustrations. Outside the studio, Kelly's walk-off becomes a defining moment. Fans praise her for standing up for herself and setting boundaries, while critics debate whether live television was the right place for such a stand. Regardless of opinion, the impact is undeniable. The incident sparks widespread discussion about how public figures are treated in interviews and where the line should be drawn between tough questions and personal respect. By the end of the day, the walk-off is everywhere: news segments, reaction videos, and trending hashtags. What began as a routine morning show appearance has turned into a powerful statement, leaving a lasting impression on viewers and redefining how such confrontations are viewed in the world of live television.